Hello, 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 hello. Sorry, I'm a little tardy. I'm hoping people are jumping on. I'm going to give some people some time. I don't want to rush this. I want to say thank you to the Maxwell family from Michigan. I just spent some time with them. And so I'm happy to discuss this topic. Um, for those of you that have never watched me live, you're able to send me questions. When I'm live, you can just type a question. So I may have to put my spectacles on in order to see you, but I'm going to have my glasses on and off. And if you have a question, please submit it. Now, tonight's topic, where I'm going to start, is a lot of parents may be thrown off by this, but high school hockey and high school baseball, what do they have in common? What's the correlation? And there's a lot of people on Twitter that have alluded to this, and I thought I would take some time tonight and kind of explain. And I'm also going to segue, as you may or may not have read, we have a lot of high school athletes that are right now being told that they have no roster spots. Now, this includes athletes that have signed their letters of intent last November, as well as this past April. And they are told they don't have a roster spot. I'm going to touch on that topic. And before I go down this road in this path, I want to stress two things. And the first is, this is about some colleges and universities, not all colleges and universities. So that's topic number one. Topic number two, I want to make it crystal clear my experiences as a college coach, but more importantly, as a dad that has gone through this process. I do not claim to have all of the answers. I know that when I need answers, I have people and resources that I can get answers. College coaches, people I respect within the business landscape. I'm simply trying to provide an alternative voice for families. And I want parents to understand the narrative of youth sports is changing rapidly. It's not to create fear. This is not to create, you need me because the sky is falling. That's not my point. My point is that legislation that was recently passed, not implemented, is going to have a major, major change in all of college athletics. And it's important to understand for parents, more importantly, student athletes, this is a big boy business. It's nothing personal. It is just business. These coaches are paid to put the best product on the field, the best athletes on the field, and that's what they intend to do. So it's nothing personal, it's business. And because it's business, whenever there is a valley or a void, I think is the best word, there are business opportunities. And that is my point of having this live stream. College hockey, college baseball, high school hockey, high school baseball. Now, I am from Greater New England, Boston specifically. Those of you that may not be in a cold weather state and don't follow hockey may have some trouble connecting high school hockey with high school baseball. Approximately 20, 25 years ago, hockey at the youth levels began to preach and push junior hockey. They began to tell families and athletes that high school hockey was a waste of time, that the talent was inferior, the coaching was inferior, and they wanted athletes that aspired to play college hockey, obviously, in turn, professional hockey. They wanted to push and promote junior hockey. And junior hockey is very expensive. In some cases, anywhere from 6 to 10,000, maybe even higher, depending upon the program, per year. And high school hockey began to suffer. Now, this was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And what began to happen is a lot of parents began to pull their athletes away from the high school programs. And, in turn, the high school programs began to suffer. Here in Boston, names you might recognize like Tom Glavine played for Bill Ricca High School, Mattnon High School, Catholic Memorial High School, St. John's Prep, which had Bobby Carpenter. These are really old names for athletes in today's world, but they were really elite high school hockey players that played both at the public school level as well as the Catholic school, and then ultimately the prep or boarding school levels. And when hockey began to put the pieces together, what they ultimately were selling was, once you were a high school graduate or the age of a high school graduate, rather than going to college, regardless of Division 3 or Division 2 or ultimately Division 1 hockey, you would be requested to do 2 years of junior hockey before you were going to apply to a college. So you would be a high school graduate in 2024. You would do 2 years of junior hockey, and you would graduate from junior hockey, or you would extinguish your 2 years of juniors. And so you would enter college in the fall of 2026. And if we look around the landscape of baseball, that narrative is already here. It is large and in charge. And you essentially are being asked as parents to consider the pathway to college through a postgraduate academy or a baseball academy. And we can say that is junior hockey. And that is what baseball is starting to create an analogy and a kind of a similar pathway. And if we take a peek at the college recruiting landscape, they are kind of pushing that narrative, because what we're seeing in 2023 and now in 2024, some very prominent Division I programs, it happens at all levels of college, even JUCO. Families are being contacted by staffs, coaching staffs, and basically being told, you do not have a roster spot. You can elect to keep your scholarship or whatever package that you were given, but you will not play baseball. And at the end of your first year, freshman year, that money will be taken back and reallocated. What they're hoping parents do, and then this is the case, most parents do, they'll say, okay, well, we have to go look for an alternative. They turn in their financial aid, their scholarship. They also turn in their spot within the school, the university. And then that is taken by the transfer portal. So again, if we go back and we look at the hockey dynamic and the baseball dynamic, the analogy is the sports are getting older. It's not going to change. Hockey has been this way for the last 20 some odd years and is still that way today. And still, you will see freshmen going to Division III at 20 and 21 years of age. Are there exceptions? Yes, there are exceptions. There are 18-year-old hockey players. There are 18, 19-year-old baseball players. But I'm talking as a whole, that is the case. And so what I want you to understand is the narrative is be older, be stronger, be plug and play. And we do not have junior baseball or junior league baseball as they do in hockey. But, oh, by the way, there's a lot of post-grad academies / baseball academies popping up, and all that can be yours for the price of $20,000 to $50,000, and if we're talking IMG, 80 to 100,000. So we really have to stop and think about the sheer numbers. Like, what's the real reality of your son or your student athlete playing baseball at the college level? And it requires physicality, it requires skill set, meaning you have to have a present and projectable skill sets. And oh, by the way, you're going to have to be patient because the older players are going to play. Okay, and I'm going to hit these all. I have Daniel, Marcus, thank you, Marcus, and Nash. And what we're going to see happen here is one of two things. The first thing is you're going to start to see developmental squads. We refer to them as junior varsity squads, but nobody's going to classify them as junior varsity. They're going to call them developmental squads. And I believe that is going to play a role within college baseball. Many Division III, Division II programs, JUCO programs do have developmental squads. Division I teams are going to have developmental programs. And I'm going to touch upon legislation here in a bit. I just don't want to jump around. And so, is it fair to tell high school athletes, don't come? We have no room for you. It's not fair, but it's the right thing to do. It's the difference between ripping the Band-Aid off completely or trying to take a little bit off at a time. It hurts a little bit longer if you take it off slow, whereas if you rip it off and you understand the reality is that there are schools, and I've said this in the past, that had 17 freshmen in the fall of 2023. And today there are 2 left. That's one program. There are programs that have over-recruited. There are programs that want to win now, and they look in the portal and they see a gift that keeps on giving, and there are athletes in there from major D1 programs that nobody ever thought would leave the programs that they attended last year, but yet here we are, and there's going to be a frenzy, a plethora of athletes entering between now and July 2nd, which is Tuesday. If they have a coaching change, they have an additional 30 days to enter the portal. My point to you is, as an adult, as a parent, if you had the ability to take a student athlete that just graduated from high school or an athlete who has a college resume that had some degree of success, which one would you choose? And the wise man is going to choose the college athlete that has a resume that is acclimated to college, that understands the time management and all the things that go with being a college athlete. So, we cannot fault college coaches. We can question whether it's right, but we can't tell them they're not doing the right thing. So the reality is that if we look at the college and high school hockey model that has been in place for 25 years approximately, that is now officially in place for baseball. What that means in reality is the narrative that a lot of parents operate within, and I'm not trying to be a doomer and a gloomer here when I say this, but the narrative of travel baseball, as far as being the direct pathway or the conduit to college baseball, is no longer accurate. The showcase circuit, the travel ball tournaments, they do have college coaches that attend those events. But for the month of June, and even now into early July, a lot of college coaches and staffs will be at summer college games, and then they're going to go to the big boy tournaments, which will be in Atlanta for the 16U WWBA, the PBR Futures, the Area Code, the East Coast Pro, those bigger national events where the talent is very pronounced and the separation of average to above average to elite is really significant. That is where college coaches will go. And so, the travel ball world that starts in late May and runs through the middle of July, and then a few ancillary tournaments in August and then October, it's just not business as usual. What has changed over and above the portal is the influx for baseball academies. And I don't care where you live, I don't care what social media platform you're on. You just go into post-grad baseball academies on Google, boom, and look at when they were started and look at the promises they're making. And that, my friends, is now going to become the junior level of hockey for baseball. So that's the tie-in and the segue. As far as the post-grad academies are concerned, they're going to want your student athlete to do one of two things. Leave their current high school and back up a year, meaning if you did a sophomore year this year, you're about to go into public school or Catholic school or high school at the junior level, you're going to go into the new baseball academy as a sophomore. Thus, you've repeated, reclassified, and now you are going to help a business generate income, and hopefully you get bigger, faster, stronger, and your talent is able to end up in a college program. But what I want you to understand is, and I'm going to get to all these questions, what I want you to understand is the amount of spots is still the same. In other words, what nobody is saying to parents is the narrative is changing, the industry is changing, but oh, by the way, the number of roster spots at these colleges is not. It's not like they're growing. Yes, they might have developmental programs. They might have JV programs. But are you going to spend tens of thousands of dollars so your son or your student athlete can go be a JV player? Are you going to try to be an elite academic and then say, I'm going to go to a JUCO program and hope somebody sees my son and hope that I end up on a D1 roster or college roster? In other words, we're all chasing, but at the end of the day, if this was musical chairs, the music might be louder, the music might be more progressive, but the number of chairs has not changed. And so what nobody wants to tell parents is the realities is that before your sons or student athletes start high school, the numbers are that 90%, let's call it 85%, 85% will not play in college. 10 to 15% are going to go play college baseball. 85 to 90% are not going to play college baseball. So at what point do you want to know that as a parent? And at what point does your son or student athlete want to recognize, I just want to have fun playing the sport. I want to play it to the best of my ability. I want to play with my friends, whether that's local or travel, and I want to have fun. Because that's going to apply to more than just 50%. That's going to apply to the vast majority. The other thing is college coaches are not the bad guys. I want to say that definitively. They are not the bad guys. They are paid in some cases at the Division I level very, very well. Most of these coaches have a passion for the sport. But guess what? If they don't win, if they don't produce, and if they don't generate, good, upstanding members of the community, they are going to be fired. They are going to be let go. They have families. They have to provide. And here's the other thing. No amount of money that we send to recruiting services for video hypes on Twitter, you can tag 1 million people, including myself. I don't have the ability to pick up a phone and say to any coach, hey, you got to take this guy. I think he's really good. It just doesn't work that way. There's a validation. They may trust my opinion before they go look at an athlete. But these recruiting services that spray and pray, and they just drop email bombs all over the place, it's not helping. And retweeting your son's video is not going to get him a college scholarship. What's going to get your son a college scholarship is strength, skill set, ability as far as on and off the field of play, meaning in the classroom, socially, as a communicator, as a human being. All of those things add up collectively. And oh, by the way, if he's got a skill set and he's pretty strong, he's going to get a lot of people that like him. But that's the reality. Okay, now on to the questions. And so the number one thing that I have a lot of parents asking me about is, my son is a 2026 and August 1st is around the corner. What camp should we go to? Should we expect calls? What showcases? Okay. The number one thing that I'm having this particular live session is there are a lot of 24s and 25s that don't have a home. So unless your 2026 is really elite, chances are, probably like a good core 200, maybe let's call it 500 athletes on August 1st will get a lot of calls and a lot of attention. But other than that, it's just crickets. They're too young, and the portal is filled with men. Men. Physical, strong, adult, 21 to 23-year-olds, in some cases 24-year-old men. They're not going to recruit a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old that is still developing. And that is the hardcore reality. This is why I'm having this particular discussion tonight. I have a young man that I've talked to on Twitter. I'm not going to mention his name. He lives down south. He was, he and I talked, extremely elite academic, 34 ACT, and really wanted to play Division I baseball. Very, very talented man, young man. And coaching staff change, and now there's no room at the inn. And now what? Now what do we do? He just graduated high school in May, and now it's almost July, and I thought I was going here, but I don't have any place to go. Okay, well, we do have some options, but it's probably not going to be in his best interest to just find a school and try to work his way in. That's why I have been saying for the last 12 to 14 months, it's time for parents to stop chasing. Now, when I say this, I'm trying to say this politely. I don't have any dog in the fight. It doesn't matter to me what travel organization you play with. There's a lot of great people in travel baseball. It doesn't matter to me what where you work out. There's a lot of great strength people and a lot of great skill set training people. I'm not here to tell you who's good and who's not good. What I'm here to tell you is college coaches are literally looking at your son and saying, how many wins can this young man help us win? How many games can he help us win for the 2025 season? And then if you're at 26, they're asking about the 27 season. In other words, coaches are looking at athletes on my roster who can help. How quickly can they help? How quickly can they produce? They are no longer carrying guys. The vast majority of teams are no longer carrying athletes and hoping they produce. They want to know that there's a good metric here, a good ticker, a good heart. A couple of scouts I know, they call it nuts and guts. They want to know there's a good motor. Those kind of guys are going to stick around. There are colleges at all levels that are re-emphasizing, and they only want to saddle up, this is my term, not theirs, saddle up the horses that they want to ride, meaning they're not going to go make a heavy effort in the portal. And I would say out of 300 Division I schools, maybe 100 schools are, let's call it half. Let's say 100, 150, they're going to be portal heavy, and the other are going to dip in the portal, but they're really going to focus on bringing the right guys in. And the right guys are what we just spent time talking about. The right guys are, they're physical, they're present physical, they're not projectable physical, like they're now physical guys that have skill set, both present and projectable, and they're going to work those athletes into being an integral part of their program. Evansville, Sacramento State University, If you listen to Reggie Christensen at Sacramento State, he talked about it. You talk. Wes Carroll had a great conversation. Evansville Aces, my gosh, man, they took Tennessee, the eventual national champion. They're another program that really relies on good recruiting. They don't hope. They try to get it right. But the point I'm making with both Reggie at Sacramento State and Wes at Evansville, they're not in a rush. They're not going to call and really hope and pray on a 2026. They're going to take their time on the 2025, or maybe they're going to find a 2024 that somehow didn't find a home. They're going to be patient. This is the point of why I'm having this live stream. You don't want to listen to me pontificate. You want to get what the reality is from these college coaches. And the reality does not sync up with the travel ball narrative of rush, rush, rush. And August 1st is Christmas Eve, and they're going to come to showcases, and we're going to go to camps, and we're going to get recruited. No, they'll identify, they'll follow, but it's up to you as parents, and more importantly, you as a student athlete, to put the time in the weight room, to put the time and effort into your nutrition, your hydration, your sleep, your skill set development. Don't wait to take lessons. Don't wait for a half hour, 1 hour lesson. Don't focus on technology and gadgets. Focus on, if you need to become a better hitter, focus on those reps, those you're responsible to take your own repetitions, your own time, wall balls, playing catch, nurturing your arm, developing your skill set, and then integrating that into your reps with your travel team or your instructor or your wherever you do lessons. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Do you see, let's see, my son is a 2025 pitcher in high school, has a fastball. Okay. A lot of parents have sent me this message. And Josh, I'm not picking on you. This is Josh. I'm not fit. And I just spoke to a family before I came on here. This is a topic I wanted to include. Velocity. Now, velocity is sexy. Velocity sells. Man, you get so many people out here on social media, and it's Velo City. And I promise I'm going to give you your son 3 to 5 miles an hour on his fastball, or you don't pay, or your money back. Okay. Now, I really want to just touch on this. I'm not picking on anybody. Velocity. College coaches, to a man, I don't care, pick your elite divisions, and I get it. Velocity, it's sexy, it looks great. But guess what? Your 14-year-old, your 16-year-old, they're not meant to throw 93. They're not physically prepared. Their body is not ready to throw 93. It's great. I think it's really cool. A 16-year-old wants to go out and get on a leaderboard, and then he's hyped up on a leaderboard, or he's the top ranked this or top ranked that. Well, it's a recipe for disaster. And all of these people that preach and promise velocity gains, and they're going to tell you the only way to college is if you throw 90 miles an hour. That's BS. Now, if you throw 90 to 93 when you're 19 to 24, I think that's great. If your sons are throwing in the 80s and they're freshmen or 8th graders through sophomores, guess what? Mother Nature is going to put 20 pounds on them over the next 3 years. And that extra 20 pounds is about another 3 to 4 miles an hour just through Mother Nature. But if you're doing your strength training, you're doing everything that a college athlete does, but you're doing it while you're in high school, you're going to be preparing your body to be able to do what you want it to do when you arrive at college. Because 90 to the backstop as a 16-year-older, they call spray and pray. Nobody cares. And I've seen so many advertisements from these people. Look, my sons are pitchers. You know, whether you want to say my son stinks, he's in AAA, I don't really care. My son is a pitcher. And my son he was drafted out of high school, and he was cut from Team USA because he didn't throw hard enough. This is a fact. And, you know, people are coming after us left and right. Hey, let's do this program and let's do that program, and we'll get your son to throw this. We'll pass. what he did was he got into a strength program, Cressy Performance in Hudson, Massachusetts. He got after it, and he was pissed off. And guess what? He worked hard. And oh, by the way, when he got done with his hard work after hibernation in the Northeast, he threw harder. But he gained weight. He ate well. He had proper nutrition. He trained his body properly, and he prepared his body. That is the magic. The magic is not from a band. It's not from long tossing the length of a football field at the age of 12. It's not from weighted balls and, all of these other things. Do those play a role? Yes, but they play a role over time. Avoid chasing velocity. If you chase velocity, you are going to hit a wall. And I just said this earlier. There was a commercial when I was a kid from a plumber on television. You can pay me now or you can pay me later. But any way you slice it, you're going to pay me. The arm gods do not mess around. If you're trying to get the arm and the body at 14 through 17 to throw 95, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Your arm is going to say, hey, that's enough, stop. Don't chase velocity. Coaches look at projectability. They look at your arm path. They look at 3 levers. They look at your elbow, your wrist, and your fingers. How's the arm action? Is it fluid? Is it repeatable? Those things they look at and can predict. I've talked to a whole bunch of college coaches at Division I levels, and they'll say, this young man's 81 to 84, but you know what? His arm works really well, very whippy, clean, athletic, fluid. And guess what? 2 years later, that young man's 89, 91. It's not an accident. The young man didn't do any magic potions. He just trained his body from a strength perspective and allowed Mother Nature. Trust me, physical growth will help get your student athlete to arm strength or velocity. Okay, so I want to go back. I'm sorry, I'm missing a lot of this stuff. I don't have my glasses. Here we go. Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. Let's see. How do you put your name out there? You put your name out there by having skill. You can't put your name out there if there's no skill. If you have a foundation skill, meaning foot speed, arm strength, defensive skill sets, bat to ball skill sets, or power, all of those things are going to get your name out there. Someone is definitely going to see you. And here's a novel thing. Your coach, as well as opposing coaches, they recognize good athletes. So if you're on a team, and your high school team, and I get this question all the time, and your mind stinks, but you're competing every single game, and the opposing team sees you competing, that opposing coach is going to speak well on your behalf to somebody who's looking for a good athlete. Always remember that. That's a big deal. Let's see. Private high school, focus on hockey. Just got drafted. Okay. Okay, so I think, Daniel, you're asking me, there are athletes that are really talented that get asked to attend postgraduate type schools, what I call boarding schools, elite. Here in the Northeast, there are schools like the NEPSAC, the ISL, the Founders League. There's a lot of really elite, high-level academic athletic high schools that a lot of athletes are gravitating towards. And yes, if you have a son or daughter that's very, very talented as an athlete, those schools are going to recruit your son or daughter to go to those schools. That is a fact. And so my son, that happened to my youngest son. He was at Auburn High School for his 9th and 10th grade year, and then attended Lawrence Academy to play football and baseball. And yes, he played football as well as baseball. And that does happen. That is a choice and a decision strictly for parents. Typically, there are scholarships associated with that. Let's see. Okay, fastball. Okay, I'm having trouble envisioning a better path to a 4-year school than through a JUCO program. Okay, Chris. Chris, I want to tell you that my oldest son went to JUCO. He went to LSU Eunice with Jeff Willis. But I will tell you, all schools now are JUCO. There's no separating between JUCO, Division III, Division II. You want to know the separator? The separator, for the most part, is academics. Academics. So if you are a student athlete that has a above 24 ACT or above 1100, 1150 SAT. You have a 3.3 or 3.4 GPA weighted curriculum. Okay, you know, you may want to seek out Division III. They have very strong academic, degrees and programs. And then obviously, if you're very, very talented as an athlete, you can go up to Division I. I will tell you that JUCOs now are loaded with elite level talent. There are student athletes that are making their way to JUCO that never would have gone to JUCO. They would have been gobbled up by Division I teams, but they become a JV team, so to speak, and they become, they go to these schools, LSU, Eunice, Blinn, San Jacinto, Chipola, Indian River. I can rattle them all off. There's a bunch of them up here, Northern Essex, Gloucester. A lot of great JUCO programs. The biggest thing is a lot of these JUCO programs have really great relationships with good Division I, Division II schools. And so a lot of this talent is kind of there, beginning to learn how to be a college student and then a college student athlete. But now Division III and Division II, the transfer portal has changed the game completely. You can go to any school. One looks at UConn this year. University of Connecticut, I believe, had 7 Division III former athletes from schools like Salve Regina and Endicott. So one could make an argument that you can go to any school, go into the portal, and you can go sideways, laterally, you can go up, you can go down, depending upon eligibility. JUCO is no longer the only way to go from high school and then kind of make a pit stop before Division I. It is now any level of college athletics. Let's see. JV squad, let's see. Do you think JV squads are just used to boost admission numbers? Yes, absolutely. Know that for a fact. I mean, if we're looking at the business dynamic, colleges want more student athletes. You create a JV team, you have more numbers. You have more numbers going to college. Somebody's paying that college tuition. Obviously, if you're on a JV team, you're probably not on a significant scholarship. You might be on an academic package. But yes, there are schools that will, not all, but there are schools that will look at a developmental squad or JV program. More bodies in the seats in classes equals more money to the bottom line. And if we learned anything this past year, we had a couple Division III programs that, went bye-bye. A lot of colleges are going to have to make really, really difficult decisions. And I'm going to stop answering questions for 1 second. You're going to see, because of Title IX, and I alluded to this early, NCAA legislation that was passed for the Power 5 conferences is going to have a trickle-down effect across all of college athletics, meaning there are going to be athletic departments that are currently Division I that may have to go down to Division III. There are Division I programs that are currently in Power 5 conferences that may not be able to afford to stay in the Power 5. And that's a story for another day. Some schools may become very similar to Dallas Baptist, which is one sport. Their baseball team is Division I. Their other sports are not. There's a lot of logic that will say, I can't afford a $100 million athletic budget or a $20 million payroll, for lack of a better term, to pay all of our athletes. We have to take Title IX into consideration. So baseball is one of those sports. Okay, I might have a softball team, but remember, the schools that have football, okay, I got to make up 85 to 100 scholarships over here from my football team. So I got to have a women's, like Vanderbilt has women's lacrosse, they have women's soccer. They do not have a softball team. I'm just giving you a, for instance, the books have to balance. So you got Title IX, and then you have an athletic budget that some schools will not be able to live under. And so there are going to be significant changes that are going to occur, and you have to take that into consideration when you're a parent or a student athlete looking to go to school. Let's see, with loved lack of understanding of what deep for the, okay, so Les, I'm going to talk about that. As parents and as student athletes, when I talk to a prospective student athlete or their parents, and I say, what is your dreams? What are your goals? You know, School, academically, life, socially. I want to play Division 1. Okay, well, what does that look like to you? Well, I want to play at this school. I want to go Division 1. Okay, there are only 300 schools that offer Division 1. Have you ever been to a practice at a Division 1 school? No, but I watch it on TV. Well, how often do you watch it? Well, every once in a while. Okay, so you play travel ball, you play high school baseball. Somewhere, somebody has to step in and say, the odds. How many travel ball teams are there? I mean, I'm sure anybody that's watching right now can rattle off 5 travel programs within a 60-mile radius of your home. Okay, all of those athletes cannot possibly find a home at Division 1. They can find a home at Division 2. They can find a home at NAIA, which is good baseball. But my point to you is, have you ever gone to an NAIA baseball practice? Have you ever gone to Georgia Gwinnett and seen Coach Sheets run a practice? Have you ever gone to the University of Tampa Division 2, Southern New Hampshire Division 2, Assumption College Division 2? Have you ever gone to Endicott, Salve Regina, Emory? Have you ever gone to John Hopkins and watched a practice? If you have not gone to a college practice, you are not properly preparing your student athlete to be a future college student athlete, because it is at a practice that you will be able to say, where do you see yourself fitting? Can you be at this level? Can you practice at this level? Are you this good? Are your skill sets going to transfer and laterally transfer from where you're at now to this level of baseball? I coached at the lowest end of Division 3. I've said this before. We had 5 athletes that went on to play professionally. And we were probably, my best year, we were 34-17. I'm just telling you, we were low end Division 3. And a lot of boys would think they could come and just walk in and play. They couldn't compete. They couldn't compete at the Division 3 level. But yet we're the carrot that gets dangled by recruiting services and travel organizations. Not all, but the narrative in general. Division 1, we have 140 Division 1. We've had 150 drafted players. That narrative, that ship sailed. It's not the same. The landscape is totally different. You have to, as a parent of a 2025 or 2026, this fall, go watch a fall practice. How does your student athlete stack up? Look at the size of these guys. Your son that's 6'1", 165. Does he look like does he belong out there? I mean, these are the things you need to know now, not later. College athletics, regardless of the level, regardless of the division, I promise you, from every fiber of my being, are hard. They are hard to get between those lines to get playing time. You have to be really special to play baseball at, pick your school, Endicott, Salve Regina. You have to be really good. And oh, by the way, you're going to be older and physical at those schools. I promise you. Wes, thank you for that. Now, I want to continue down. Sons, let's see. My youngest son, Marcus, a sophomore in college, teammate is getting Tommy John surgery this week. Okay, and Marcus, I'm gonna. So Marcus is a gentleman. I've never met this gentleman before in my life. I've never talked with him. I trade messages, or we just kind of interact on social media, which is the vast majority of the way people find me or people. I want to say something. Now, Marcus brings out a good point. Marcus is very realistic, but he's talking about someone that's an athlete in college who, as a sophomore in college, is about to get Tommy John surgery. Parents, long after you've paid the recruiting service, long after you've paid for the gadget or guru that makes all of these promises online and tells you they guarantee 3 to 5 miles of velocity. Okay, is that 3 to 5 miles of velocity worth the future potential injury of your son? Because if I will promise you, my son had Tommy John surgery while he was in the major leagues, trying to throw harder, But my son had Tommy John surgery. It's no fun being on the outside looking in. When your son is a student athlete at a college, yes, he can redshirt, but he still has to wait 12 to 18 months to play again, and he's got to watch everybody else play. Is it worth chasing velocity rather than choosing a plan specifically for your son? Ask yourself that question. That's the question. That's the takeaway from tonight's live stream. Why chase what everybody else is telling you is the way to go instead of having a plan that you as a parent, and more importantly, as a student athlete, your plan that you can put into action and derive real benefits in the future? You have to start looking at this whole thing as the future, 2, 3, 4 years from now, depending upon the age of your student athlete. Marcus, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Do you think Division III will ever be able to give an athletic scholarship? Division IIIs, they give out money, but they don't call it scholarships. And here's the other thing about Division III athletics that parents need to understand. Most Division III schools are giving back via financial aid between 35 and 55%. On average, it's in the middle, that 45, 48%. So if you have a school and it's 50,000 or 60,000 Division III, your aid package generally comes in around 38, 40, 30, 40, somewhere in that ballpark. But here are some tips. First of all, you can always accept and appeal a financial aid award letter in Division III. Most schools, 99% of them, will give you another 10% if you ask. Most never ask. The other thing, you can apply for merit money, grant money, Pell Grants. You can apply for local scholarships within your high school. You can apply for local scholarships at your Division III school within your area of academic study. Had a young man had a very strong interest in elementary education. He got a full scholarship because they are looking for young men to become elementary school teachers. But nobody's going to tell you that unless you know that or you ask for that. So Division III schools, and I'm speaking for, a lot of the schools throughout the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, they do give good merit money, grant money, non-repayable loans, which are scholarships at the end of the day. Ivy Leagues, they find a lot of money. They just don't use the word scholarship. They call it whatever they want to call it other than scholarship. But there is money at the Division III level. All right. The other thing I want to add, let's see. Here's what I really want to know. Let's see. Feel like I've had the same conversation 16 times in the last week. Parents of high school athletes. 2024 infielder going to Summit League school. Just okay. So what I really want to. Here's the point of me having this live stream, and because I know parents are going to fall off here in a minute. This week alone, I had over 20. I don't pull these numbers out of the air. If you as an athlete want to attach your name to this live stream and say, yep, I'm one of those guys, great. But I don't pull these numbers out of the air. My wife is tired of me receiving calls and texts and all these things all week from 2024 graduates that are now this week finding out, or last week, there's no roster spot. You can still come to college, but you can't play baseball. How many of those boys are going to say, yep, I'm going to go to that school and just watch the baseball team? Not many. That's a reality. Also, how many parents know that there are colleges that allow your student athletes to graduate high school, come to school, work out all fall, and then you're cut? They still have to keep your scholarship through the spring semester, but you're off the baseball team. And at the end of the spring semester, we're going to take your money back and reallocate that. Are you aware of that? Are you aware that happens? What's your recourse? You can't go back to the recruiting service to say, I want my money back. That's not happening. You can't go back to the people that promised you all the gadgets and gurus and I'm going to help your son throw harder, hit further, whatever. You have no recourse. You're basically back to square one. But oh, by the way, while your void is like you're getting sucked in by the portal because the older athletes are taking away your high school graduate spots, guess what's happening? The 2025s are being recruited. and they're looking for roster spots. Well, what are the 24s doing? What are the 23s doing? Where are they all going? Oh, we got baseball academies for sale. Hey, we got baseball academies. We got postgrads. Who wants a postgrad spot? Come play for us, and we'll get you stronger, and we'll get you better. We'll be here for you, and we'll find you a roster spot. Well, what roster spot are they finding you? You can't be guaranteed. Yes, they're going to have some working relationships with schools, but they can't possibly overcome the cycle of, if you go to this baseball academy in 24 and you graduate in 25, the portal's not going away. It's going to have some changes, but it's not going away. And you got to fight the 24 high school graduates that are still looking for a home that came to 25. Then you get the high school 25s that are graduating, and you get more portal guys that are loading into the portal at the end of next year. My point is, there's a finite number of roster spots. You cannot possibly fight the system. I encourage parents to not chase, but to create a realistic plan. And if you have that, and you open your mind to, hey, Johns Hopkins is a heck of a college degree. Hey, Babson University is a heck of a college degree. Salve, great college. How about the NESCAT? Tufts, Bates, Bowdoin, Amherst. If you haven't looked at those schools, they are elite academic and really, really good in baseball. And I'm just talking about in my neck of the woods. I'm not even talking about in Florida. You have some of the best Division II schools in the country. Tampa, Barry, St. Leo, Nova. Lynn University. You have some elite college baseball. That's Division II. But yet you never hear parents say, I want my son to go to Lynn or Barry or Gloucester JUCO or Northern Essex Junior College. But yet there are a lot of boys that find their way there and then end up at other programs like UMaine, Lowell, UConn, you name it. But you have to have a plan. And so that was the purpose of this live broadcast. I don't do these to pontificate and do hot air. It's a Sunday night. It's July 4th weekend. My wife and I this is a busy, busy time of year for high school athletes. And I just want somebody out there to know there are voices that you can listen to that are not going to pump you for dollars. They're not going to reach and say, you need to go to this postgrad academy. Postgrad academies in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic have been around for centuries. They've played a major role with regard to college athletics. Football, hockey, and there's always been postgraduate years where you're taking college level classes, you're learning how to be a college student, time management, study habits, etc. They've been around for centuries. But let's call these baseball academies what they are. You're going to take JUCO classes. Some credits may transfer. You got to really know what you're getting your student athlete into with regard to college hours and credits. What transfers, where will it transfer? Also, just because you go there doesn't mean you're going to play in college. None of these academies can promise you they're going to place you in a college program. Just understand the numbers never change. Lastly, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for decades. And I don't do it because I was a good baseball player. I don't do it because I was a good college coach. I do it because I feel strongly about helping alter athletes' lives in life, not just baseball. And I think it's time for us as a collective community to start to have a message for these teenagers. The world is tough. It's a business, and you need to be proactive, not reactive. You need to understand it's nothing personal. You need to get your skill sets up. You need to be better, do better, whatever they're telling you. It's nothing personal. It's just business. It's the business of college admissions. It's the business of college athletics. And if you as a parent, you would never hire a plumber to come in and fix something that you didn't know was broken, or you didn't know that they had the ability to fix it the first time, fix it correctly in an affordable capacity. You wouldn't just tell a plumber to come in and do whatever he needed. So why are we doing that with all of these instructors. We shouldn't be doing it that way. We need to have a reliable source, an alternative voice for your parents to turn to. That is what I am attempting to do with the Blue Book. I value the Blue Book's been around for over 100 years. Blue Book is nothing new. The Blue Book is simply access for parents. It's free. It's free. You want to know the address and contact information for Indiana State University? It's in there. It's free. You want to know the address for the Boston Red Sox? It's in there. It tells you who the coaches are, gives you their social media profiles. It's free. It's been free. I used the Baseball Blue Book when I was a kid, when we had Yellow Book, the yellow pages. My point is it doesn't have to cost families an arm and a leg to play travel ball, to go to get lessons, to do this gadget, to do that gadget, to go to this showcase. You're spending money and you're chasing. You need to choose. I've been doing this a long time. I have student athletes that are now men that have children. They're 35 to 40 years old. They got degrees. They got graduate degrees. They have great homes. They have great husbands. They are great dads. And they look back and we laugh about the days gone by. It's a part. Baseball was a part of their college experience. It was not the whole college experience. It was a part. Baseball is simply a component to our student athletes, our sons' college experience. That's my message. If you have the ability and you would like to email me, you can do that at beedebaseball@gmail.com. You can send me a direct message. Here's the other thing, and I really want to make sure this is how I'm going to end this. Parents on average spend between, and if you start at 8 years old, travel baseball, I'm just using 8 years old as an example. Between the ages of 8 and 18, the minimum you're going to spend is $50,000. You could spend as much as $100,000. Equipment, hotels, food, travel expenses, lessons, travel teams, uniforms, all that stuff. You're going to spend that amount of money. For years, I never did this full time because there was never a need for it. About 2 months ago, I decided I was going to do this full time. I asked on Twitter a $2.99 a month, and I interact with parents all over the country, all over North America. I've helped boys for $2.99, mind you. This is a fact. They're going to schools. They got a $70,000 a year scholarship. I have other boys that are going to play college baseball. They paid me this much. I'm not in it for that. But I'm asking you as parents, $2.99 or $4.99 message membership on YouTube. On YouTube and Twitter, every week, I'm talking to college coaches all across the country. I'm going into admissions counselors, academic advisors for you on sport teams and colleges. I'm going to strength coaches, nutrition coaches, mental health coaches. Tamara Simon and Brett McCabe, two of the best in the country. I've had them on several times. Stanford, Vanderbilt, UVA, Texas A&M, new coach at Texas. I mean, you need. We had Evansville. We've had so many coaches. I don't have to prove that I have access to these people. But for $4.99, you don't have to pay anything else. Just access to the information that I'm trying to provide to you. So think about this for a second. When I come on here, I'm doing it because I really want to legitimately help parents avoid this huge sizzle, three card game going on, the shuffle that has become youth sports, particularly youth baseball. And I'm going to do it full time with or without you. But I want parents to know that this is something I take a great deal of pride in with regard to accuracy and admitting when I'm wrong or admitting I don't have the information. But let's find out who has the right information. So thank you for taking the time. This will be a recording. You'll be able to watch this again. I hope you take the time to share within your baseball community, your family, your friends, your teammates, those that you interact with youth sports. Share. I need to grow my channel. This is a decision that I had to make. I think the time is now. I think I've spent 3 years being able to show people who I am as a person, who I am as a coach. I want people to understand as a parent, I know what it's like when your son is in pain mentally, physically. I know what it's like when your son is disappointed with outcomes. I know what it's like when the pressure and the weight of expectations within the sport of baseball, it is not a 4-for-4 day. It is not always a 10 strikeout, no walk day. There are a lot of ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys. I've lived them. I've experienced them. And what I want to help parents understand is navigate your son or your athlete's pathway, not somebody else's. Navigate his experience within baseball. So when that he's 30, he can look back and say, I had an enjoyable experience. And if he is a really strong academic, he can leverage baseball to get the best academic degree that he can, or the best experience in college. And I want parents to know that NAIA, junior college, NCAA's Division III, II, and I, they're all very difficult to play. They play much higher level than travel or high school. Let's give our sons, our athletes, the best opportunities mentally and physically to be ready when they get their feet on the college of their choice. Thank you very much for joining. Please hit the subscribe button on your way out the door in YouTube. I really would appreciate, I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscriptions. Any help that you can give me would be greatly appreciated. If you have a good comment, a bad comment, you have something to say, please leave it down below. I'm going to have all of my contact information when you're watching this at a later date. Have a great 4th of July and a great week in baseball. Thank you.